Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey everybody, Alex from SeemsGoodMagic.com here. I'm flying solo today for the podcast. Jake, me, and a special guest actually recorded 47 minutes of a podcast last night, and then my computer blue screened and it was all erased. So unfortunately, due to time commitments, they can't come back until later, and I wanted to get the podcast out, so I'm just going to have to run through the spoilers by myself today. I apologize. I really don't like doing solo podcasts either, but let's make this as painless as possible and get through these, because I do want to talk about these spoilers. So, Glare of Heresy is the first one of the new spoilers that we haven't talked about. It's 1 and a white, sorcery, exile target white permanent. This is part of a cycle in this set where they have cards like in white and black, and they're all a hate card for their own color. So this is a sorcery that exiles a white permanent, obviously useful against Oblivion Rings and Planeswalkers. Like, I wonder what, I mean, there's the new Elspeth coming out, so this obviously would be a good tool to use against that, but there's, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of, even the new god creatures are indestructible, so this allows you a way to take care of that. So all of these, this cycle I think is going to be played out of sideboard potentially. Let's see here, Heliod, God of the Sun. I'm not sure we looked at this guy yet. So he's 3 and a white. This is the white god. 3 and a white for a 5/6 indestructible legendary enchantment god creature. And he has the, as long as your devotion to white is less than 5, he isn't a creature. And then his 2 abilities are other creatures you control have vigilance, and 2 and 2 white. Put a 2/1 white cleric enchantment creature token onto the battlefield. I like this guy quite a bit, actually. Will he see play? I'm not sure. Maybe 4 mana is too expensive, but I mean, the thing that I like about it is you don't have to use it as a sorcery. So if you're in a blue-white control list, for example, you can leave up your counter spell, or you can pay some mana to start spitting out some 2/1 creature tokens. It's kind of a weird little power toughness for a white creature. I mean, it's not out of the realm of the reason. They've certainly have done it before. It's just not what I would have expected the power toughness to be on a cleric, I guess. I guess there was a lone missionary who was probably a cleric, and he was a 2/1. But in terms of all of the gods, I mean, this one's definitely not the best one, I don't think, but I like his ability. I think an indestructible thing that gives you late game value like that is pretty good. 100-handed one. This one's kind of like a joke creature. I actually put his picture in my last blog entry. But he's 2 and 2 white for a 3/5 vigilance monstrosity 3. As long as he's monstrous, he has reach, and he can block an additional 99 creatures each combat. Jake was saying last night that he thinks this card's kind of stupid, because if you think about, like, Palace Guard is a 3-drop common that can block any number of creatures. So they were just trying to be cute, flavorfully, with their little 99 creatures extra that it can block. Because, I mean, it pretty much can block any number of creatures. It doesn't really matter. But, I don't know, he wasn't really digging it flavorfully. And we were saying it really doesn't make sense, because if by this logic he gets 100 hands and he can block 100 creatures, shouldn't he be able to block 2 creatures in his base form? Because you see that he's got 2 normal arms, and then he's got all the floating arms. But who knows? Just reading into it too much, probably, but whatever. All right, so Observant Alcide is part of this bestow common cycle of common cards with weirdo names that people are going to have a hard time pronouncing at the events and in Limited, I'm sure. Not excited to have to say these names in draft videos. So Observant, Alcide, Alcide, I don't know. They're all nymph creatures, though. This is a 2 and a white 2/2 bestow for 5. It's vigilant, so it's a 2/2 vigilance, and it gives +2/+2 in vigilance when it's an aura. Pretty good. They're all kind of cool. I think Bestow is definitely a legit ability, considering how it works. So I'm impressed, and it's definitely going to have some far-reaching limited applications. I'm sure of it. The nice thing is you've got a couple mechanics within this set that interact well with each other. For example, this next card, Phalanx Leader, is 2 white, 1/1, and then it has heroic. Whenever you cast a spell, it targets it. You put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So definitely cool. Definitely good interaction with Bestow. Think about the amount of value there. You get your heroic, value. You get your additional Bestow value, so whatever it is as an aura, and then even if they kill the creature, you get another creature. So all sorts of value wrapped in value on that one. Let's look at this Spear of Heliod. 1 and 2 white, legendary enchantment artifact. This is part of that cycle. The white one. This is the white one. Creatures you control get +1/+1, and then it's got 1 and 2 white. Destroy target creature that dealt damage to you this turn. This card's kind of cool. It's a little more expensive Honor of the Peer, but I feel like it doesn't have nearly as many abilities on it like the green one does. But creatures you control get +1/+1. Very classic white ability. Crusade and Honor of the Peer. Even Intangible Virtue right now for Innistrad is, white, similar white enchantment. So pretty unusual to see it on an artifact, but obviously that's the enchantment effect of the card. Yeah, I think this could see some play in White Weenie, potentially. The destroy target creature that dealt damage to you is not the most White Weenie-oriented card, but I don't know yet if 3 mana is too expensive for this effect. It's probably right at the cusp of being okay. Vanquish the Foul. This is kind of an overpriced uncommon we established last night. 6 mana sorcery, uncommon. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, and then you scry 1. I think on this card they kind of overestimated how good scry is. I guess I could note that, in white typically they don't get card draw. There was that example of the, I forget what it's called, from Rise of the Eldrazi, Survival Cache, where you gain 2 life, and then if you have more than your opponent or something, you draw a card, and then it has rebound on it. But just white in general very often does not get any sort of life gain effect. So, or not life gain, any sort of draw effect. So it's very unusual to see those two together. I'm not sure exactly why they do that. I guess they think white is powerful enough, which is true. Scry isn't even a draw effect, though. It's just card value from your deck. It just, gives you some card quality is really the words I'm looking for. So when you scry, you get to, potentially make your draws better in the future, but you don't actually generate any sort of card advantage. So 6 mana with a Reprisal plus a scry 1 seems extremely overpriced. But will this card see limited play? Possibly. It's going to see some definite sideboard limited play. I don't even know if it's good enough main deck yet. I guess it depends on how many fatties there actually are in this set. I guess with all the Bestow auras, maybe there will be a lot more creatures with power 4 or greater. That kind of makes sense. Wingsteed Rider is a 3 mana 2/2 common human knight flying 2/2 flyer with heroic. When he gets targeted with a spell, he gets a +1/+1 counter. So sort of a little mini theme within the white heroic creatures. I think this card's going to see a lot of limited play. Very strong common. Very easily could take games over with just 1 Bestow. Artisan of Forms, kind of the new clone effect from this set. 1 and a blue, 1/1 human wizard with heroic, and when you cast a spell that targets it, it can become a copy of target creature and gain that ability. I think that's a really cool card. Will it see constructed? Not sure. Guess it could. I see some potentially cool stuff you can do with that. The only other 2-drop clone effects that I can really think of are Phantasmal Image, and there was one from Rise of the Eldrazi, and I can't think of its name right now. Yeah, I just can't remember what its name was, but that one didn't see much play. Phantasmal Image, however, did see a lot of play, so We'll see if this one does. I'm not sure yet. I think Phantasmal Image, in my opinion, is better than this one. But still, this card's kind of cool. I mean, the heroic cards in general, I'm not even sure how good that mechanic will be in constructed, since it kind of requires additional cards to even, do anything. Gainsay. This is kind of an interesting addition. 1 in a blue instant counter target blue spell. So definitely this is that same cycle as the white card we saw earlier that exiles white permanents. This counters blue spells. Definitely think this is going to see some sideboard play. How good is it actually? I'm not sure yet. I mean, obviously not a main deckable card, but very solid control sideboard card, so I'm interested to see more of that, if it sees play or not. Master of Waves, here's a Mythic in blue, 3 in a blue for a 2/1 pro-red Merfolk Wizard. It has elemental creatures you control get +1/+1, and then when it enters the battlefield, you put a number of 1/0 blue elemental creature tokens onto the battlefield equal to your devotion to blue. So very cool card. I like it a lot. The pro-red really makes it, in my opinion, since otherwise it would be just way too vulnerable to shock, which is currently in core set, and some of the red burn spells we'll show you in a bit here. But this is a cool mythic. I'm interested to see if this legitimately can see some play or not. Obviously, you see the shortcoming of it. If they manage to kill your Master of Waves, you're going to lose all your blue elemental creature tokens. So do have to be conscious of that when playing this card. This is definitely more of a monocolor set. All of these devotion spells have really been pushing people to want to play monocolor, so I presume the limited environment is going to be very mono-oriented. Here is the blue nymph bestow creature, Nimbus Naiad, 2 in a blue, 2/2, bestow for 5. It's a 2/2 flyer, and it gives +2/+2 and S flying. I think this is a very, very good one, possibly the best of this common cycle, although the green one is quite good too. But giving the evasion and then getting an evasive creature, even if they kill whatever you gave evasion, that seems really good, really strong. I like that a lot. Let's look at this Omen Speaker, similar to Seagate Oracle. 1 in a blue, 1/3 human wizard. When it enters, you get to scry 2. It's very good, definitely playable. I think this is cool. You get a good blocker, you get to scry 2, so you make your card quality better, you get a nice blocker. I like it. They're not afraid to do 2 mana 1/3s with abilities. We saw it in Gatecrash with Incursion Specialist, and this goes back. The original, I think, vanilla version of this was Maritime Guard in blue, and they just realized they can put abilities on it. They don't need to limit it, so showing the power creep. But I like this card. Definitely pickable in draft. Let's look here. What's this Sealock monster? I'm not sure I read him. 5 mana, 5/5, uncommon octopus. He can't attack unless defending player controls an island, and then he has 7 mana, monstrosity 3, and when he becomes monstrous, target land becomes an island, so synergizes well with himself. We haven't seen the can't attack unless defending player controls an island. That's very similar to Island Home, which was an old mechanic that they eventually just phased out. Nobody really liked it. I think what they eventually kind of decided with mechanics is they didn't want to make a mechanic that was like a disadvantage, which is what Island Home ultimately was. And there were a couple other mechanics that felt kind of like disadvantages too, like even cumulative upkeep that was in Ice Age, but also in Cold Snap. So they haven't done sort of those detrimental. See, the thing with Cold Snap was they brought back cumulative upkeep, but they actually gave you some value from the amount that you were paying towards your cumulative upkeep. So they made it where it wasn't just a disadvantage. You were getting something positive out of it too. But obviously, I mean, this is just a disadvantage. It can't attack unless defending player controls an island. But the value that you get out of it is it's a 5 mana 5/5 blocker, which is quite good. And the monstrosity lets it attack. So cool uncommon, definitely going to be playable in limited. Let's look at this Thassa's Emissary. So we've got a 4 mana 3/3 crab enchantment creature. Bestow for 6, and it whenever it or enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card, and then an enchanted creature gets +3/+3 for, so for 6 mana, +3/+3 aura, and you get to draw a card when that creature hits, and even if they kill it, you get a 3/3 that whenever that hits, you draw a card. Definitely going to see some play. Strong card. Even as a 4 mana 3/3 with that ability, I like it quite a bit. So I'm excited to play this Bestow and see how good it is. I think I'm pretty impressed so far. Triton Fortune Hunter, 2 and a blue, 2/2 Merfolk Soldier with Heroic, and you get to draw a card whenever you target him with a spell. This card seems potentially really good, even though Innistrad block is rotating out. I like the idea of the Dark Ascension flashback spells with it, like Artful Dodge seems really good with this. 2 mana, draw 2 cards, and he gets unblockable for a couple turns. So pretty interesting. I'm interested to see how much play this guy gets. Clearly playable and limited, but is he good enough for Constructed? Maybe. I guess it depends on if people figure out some way to break Heroic, but for now it seems like Heroic is a pretty niche ability. What's this Wave Crash Triton? Let's take a look at this. 2 and a blue, 1/4 Merfolk Wizard. I actually like this card quite a bit. He has Heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets him, you tap a creature an opponent controls, and that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. I like this guy because he's a good blocker, plus he really can let you push in late game and just tap down their guys. Instant speed too, which is pretty awesome. So I definitely think this is going to see some serious limited play. Let's move on to black cards. So we've got Dark Betrayal, part of the cycle. 1 black, instant, destroy target black creature. This is a cool card. You can just sort of swap out your Doomblades main deck when you're up against the black deck. So good sideboard constructed card. Sideboard and limited play a little bit, but certainly not main deckable in either one. A little bit too narrow. Erebus, God of the Dead. So the black god is a 3 and a black 5/7 indestructible god creature, and he has your opponents can't gain life, and 1 and a black pay 2 life, draw a card. I like it. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to use the 1 and a black pay 2 life, draw a card. You only get a few draws off it, so a little bit of life gain alongside that would probably go a long way. Your opponents can't gain life is certainly interesting. In black, we've probably seen it before. I just can't think of any examples right now. I like this with extort creatures. It's possible that extort maybe gets a little bit better post-rotation. Certainly gaining the life would and getting to draw some cards makes it feel good. I do like that you can instant speed draw the cards, so this also feels good in some sort of blue-black control strategy where you're either leaving up counterspell or end of turn drawing into more counterspells. So I like it. I think it could definitely see some play. Let's look at this Gray Merchant. Actually, I think we did him already. Let's do Hero's Downfall. This is 1 and 2 black instant, destroy target creature or planeswalker. At rare, so essentially Dreadbore, just monocolored. I like it. Murder was the common from M13 that just killed creatures, so this lets you get the added benefit of killing planeswalkers as well. Will it see play? Definitely. I think it'll see some sideboard play. Will it see main deck play? Possibly. Maybe a little bit. One or two of. But it's cool. They're definitely not afraid to put Planeswalker Destruction on cards nowadays. We've gotten to that point. Let's look at Hythonia the Cruel. 4 and 2 black, legendary Gorgon creature. She's a 4/6 Death Touch. 8 mana, monstrosity 3, and it becomes monstrous, destroy all non-Gorgon creatures. Wow, this seems pretty cool. I could definitely see this being playable in limited, quite a bit playable in limited. So it's like a one-sided board wipe and lets you attack in for 7. I'm impressed. Feels pretty mythic. How about Night Howler? Actually, I think we did him already. Read the Bones we did. Okay, so now we're on to red. Let's look at this Ember Swallower. Actually, I think we did him too. Flame Speaker Adept. We didn't do this guy. Oh, they don't have an attachment for it. Okay. 2 and a red, 2/3 Human Shaman. Whenever you scry, it gets +2/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. pretty cool. So if you have ways to instant speed Scry, this guy on his own gets a nice little combat trick. So potentially a lot of value with this card. It's the first time that I can remember seeing something that triggers an ability when you scry. So I wonder if this is going to be a unique card to the set that has that, or if they're going to be making more cards that give you additional value whenever you scry. Like, I really like this guy alongside Magma Jet from the same set. You attack with him. If they block, you get to deal 2 damage to something, scry, plus give him a boost and first strike. So pretty impressive. I think there's some pretty good potential applications with him. Usually 3 mana, 2 3s. That's sort of the magic number. 2 3s are typically very limited playable. So I expect this guy to follow that trend as well. Lightning Strike looks like it's the new Searing Spear, since Searing Spear is rotating out. This is 1 in a red instant, and it deals 3 damage to a creature or player. So pretty straightforward. Definitely going to be a high pick in Limited. Let's see here. Peak Eruption. This is the red hate toward red cards. 2 in a red sorcery, destroy target mountain, and it deals 3 damage to that land's controller. Clearly good against the shock lands. It's going to be nice to be able to destroy one of those and deal 3 damage to the land's controller. So definitely some sort of red deck wins sideboard card. If red deck wins is still a thing, I think it's pretty much always a thing in Constructed, even if it's in the, the fringe. Sometimes, usually at the beginning of a new format, red deck does very well, and then a couple weeks in it gets hated efficiently enough and doesn't stand a chance anymore. But we'll see. Peak Eruption feels like a pretty good red deck wins sideboard card. Perforos, God of the Forge, the red god creature. He's a 4 mana, 6/5 indestructible, and he has whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, he deals 2 damage to each opponent, and then he has 2 in a red. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. I like this guy quite a bit. He's an indestructible, just as an indestructible card that's sitting out there rewarding you and punishing your enemy every time you get a creature. Clearly good with token spells. Even though Krinko's command is going out, that's the first one that comes to my mind. So that would be 2 mana, get 2 1/1s, and deal 4 damage to each opponent. Plus, then he could pump them up +1/+0. So a lot of potential value with this guy. So I think he's pretty cool. I'm interested to see if anybody can do something with him and being able to put a bunch of creatures into play in one turn for an omega amount of damage. Definitely not the best god creature, but certainly I think a good one, and one that could be abused. Let's look at this Perforos' Emissary. So he's a 4 mana 3/3, and he has Bestow for 7. He's a 3/3 for 4 that can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures, and then he gets +3/+3, or he gives +3/+3 and can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. So seems a little bit expensive for Bestow, especially at uncommon. But, it's a powerful ability. Can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Usually pretty annoying, especially if it's a surprise. And giving it a boost of +3/+3 is certainly not negligible, so I'm interested to see how that card plays. We've got Spearpoint Oread. So this is the red cycle of Bestow commons. 2 in a red, 2/2 first strike. This Bestow cost is 6. But it gives +2/+2 in first strike. It seems like they could have gotten away with 5 on this, but they didn't. So, first strike is definitely a good mechanic. So maybe they thought the additional mana was justified, but I guess I'd have to play it and see. I'm not really convinced they needed to make it 6 mana. Let's see here. Stoneshock Giant is a 5 mana 5/4 giant creature. It has Monstrosity 3 for 8 mana, and then it becomes monstrous. Creatures without flying your opponent's control can't block this turn. That seems like it's really good. If you get to that monstrous place, it just makes it like a little seismic stomp, just lets your whole team get in. You at least are able to get in with him for 8. I guess they could have flyers to block, but it still feels like it's a pretty powerful card. As a 5 mana 5/4 in red, it's certainly efficient enough, so I like this card quite a bit. Stormbreath Dragon, now that we've got Hellkite rotating out, Thundermaw Hellkite rotating out, this is the pseudo replacement for it, albeit not nearly as good. It's 3 and 2 red for a 4/4 flying haste protection from white, and then it has 7 mana monstrosity 3, and it becomes monstrous. It deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. I mean, it's a cool card. The reasons I like Pro White, because we're currently in a Azorius Charm format, and Azorius Charm is going to be sticking around for a while, so it's nice to have something with haste that has good protection against that control tool. We'll see how much play this gets. It feels like it's certainly good enough to play, and I think people are going to try it. It's not even legendary, so like Thundermaw, it's cool that it's got the haste, so it's surprise damage out of nowhere. We'll see how relevant the protection from white is after the whole set is spoiled, and certainly post-rotation when we start getting a better grasp of what's being played. But for now, I mean, I think it's okay. It's just I'm a little less impressed with it coming out of a Thundermaw Hellkite era. Titan of Eternal Fire is a 6 mana 5/6 giant, and then it gives each human creature you control has red and tap. This creature deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Pretty cool. Once again, just as a 6 mana 5/6, pretty good in red. Add to it red and tap gets to ping, your creatures get to ping stuff, your human creatures get to ping stuff. I mean, it's a little bit narrow. They made this you want to play monocolor with it, and they were probably pretty smart to do that. So you can't really splash this card and hope to get a ton of value off of the ability it gives your human creatures. So it's definitely pushing you to be more red if you want to get if you want to be giving multiple humans this ping ability. Let's see here. Arbor Colossus, we're on to green. 2 and 3 green for a 6/6 reach giant creature. It has monstrosity for 6, and when it becomes monstrous, destroy a target creature with flying and opponent controls. Certainly seems playable. It's not like the best rare ever. I think the plus to it is it gives you 3 devotion, which is certainly relevant in this format. So is it snap first pick? Possibly. I mean, 6/6 reach for 5 is very efficient, and like I said, it very much feels like they're pushing people towards monocolor, so the color intensity of this spell is probably not that big of a deal. Its monstrosity effect seems a little bit underwhelming compared to some of the other monstrosity rares we've seen, and especially since it's already a 6/6 reach, why would you have to destroy a creature with flying anyway? But definitely playable. Let's check out Boon Satyr. 1 and 2 green for a 4/2 flash creature, and then it has Bestow for 5. Enchanted creature gets +4/+2. Let's see. So I'm assuming you can bestow this at flash. That would make sense. In which case this card's really good. Then it's like yeah, I could see this being. This card seems really strong now, actually. Just as a 3 mana 4/2 that gives you 2 devotion, it's good. 4/2 flash, that is. But even more so as bestow, flash bestow for 5, giving +4/+2 seems really good. So I'm impressed with this card. That looks like a fun one to play. Let's look at. Did we do Commune with the Gods already? Maybe we did. How about Hunt the Hunter? So this is the green on green hate card. 1 green sorcery uncommon. Target green creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It fights target green creature and opponent controls. Seems pretty narrow. I'm not a big fan of this card. When I first saw it, I thought it was just the uncommon version of Prey Upon, and I was like, whoa, this card is insane. I was like, yeah, it's a little bit narrow because it has to be a green creature you control, gets +2/+2, and then fights. But I don't know why they didn't make it any green creature you control gets, or any creature you control gets +2/+2, and then fights a green creature and opponent controls. Then it'd be a little bit better. But as is, it is terribly narrow right now. Sideboardable and limited, but that's about it. Karametra's Acolyte, 3 and a green, 1/4 human druid. and it has tap, add an amount of green to your mana pool equal to your devotion to green. Seems pretty cool. I mean, it's really for the probably powering up some monstrosity creatures, because if you've already gotten to the point of 4 mana and then you need to tap for more mana, you probably have a lot of fatties in your deck. So I don't think this card is remarkably insane for limited unless you have quite a few monstrosity creatures. But if you do, then I could see the ability being nice for efficiently powering up those creatures. Let's look at this Leaf Crown Dryad. So this is the green part of that common cycle, and probably the only one that has a easily pronounceable name. It's 1 and a green, 2/2, and it bestows for 4, and it's a 2/2 reach, or it gives +2/+2 and has reach. So I like it a lot. You can't really ask for better than that. It's a bear with an ability, or for 4 mana, boost it, give it an ability, and it becomes a bear with an ability. So I like the cost on it. I like the rarity. Everything about it feels really good and efficient, which is how green creatures should be. Nessian Asp is also a good common, 5 mana, 4/5 reach creature, and it has 7 mana, monstrosity 4. I like it. Certainly going to be played in limited. 4/5 reach, already awesome. 4/5 for 5, good cost. Not too color intensive, but like I said, in this format, color intensity can be a reward because of the devotion. But getting to 7 mana is like usually where you top out for spells in limited. But monstrosity 4 is very significant, so I like that guy. I think he's definitely going to be seeing some limited play. Let's look at the rest of these. Reverent Hunter. Actually, I think we looked at him already. Let's look at this Sylvan Caryatid. So this is 1 and a green, 0/3, defender hexproof plant creature, and it has tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. They were definitely conscious of making this card a defender. If they had not made it defender with all of these bestow creature enchantments, this card would have been absolutely bonkers. Hexproof is only on, I think so far 3, maybe 4 creatures in this set. They really had to be careful with that just because bestow is already so good. There's really no reason that you have to put a bunch of hexproof creatures and make it even more over the top. That being said, I kind of like this card. I mean, it's a ramper in green, and it blocks fairly well with the 3 toughness, so definitely going to see some limited play. Probably not going to see much constructed play. Let's look at this Ashen Rider. This is a cool picture on it. The mount is like a huge, huge cat with wings. It's 4, 2 white, and 2 black for a 5/5 flying Archon, and when it enters the battlefield or dies, exile target permanent. I like it. It's probably too expensive for limited, but that's a really powerful ability. You get to potentially exile 2 permanents. Seems really good. Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. Here we go with a Planeswalker. 1 colorless, a blue and a black for 3 loyalty. Planeswalker. It has +2, exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. -X, put a creature card with converted mana cost X exiled with Ashiok onto the battlefield under your control. That creature is a nightmare in addition to its other types. And then -10, exile all cards from all opponents' hands and graveyards. It's a cool card. I don't think it's going to be seeing too much constructed play. It's a little bit too narrow in its application. It doesn't really protect itself, and it really only works against, I mean, the engine really only works against decks that are running creature cards. So, it's cool. It looks like it's fun to play. It's got a really underwhelming ultimate. It's efficiently costed, so it's got that going for it, but it's part of the new generation of Planeswalkers that really aren't that over the top anymore. So they're just really careful ever since Jace the Mind Sculptor. Overall, I'm not very impressed with this Planeswalker in terms of constructed playability. I'd only make it maybe I'd say there's almost no shot it's going to see constructed play, but limited play definitely. I like it a lot there. Seems really cool and fun and limited. Let's look at this Battlewise Hoplite. This is a really good bear. Blue and a white for a 2/2 human soldier with heroic. Whenever you cast a spell, it targets it, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and scry 1. Really cool. Definitely good. Gets bigger permanently and lets you scry. So a lot of potential upside with that card. Fleece Mane Lion. I'm digging this card a lot. So it's a green and a white for a 3/3 cat creature. And then it has Monstrosity 1 for 5. And if it's monstrous, it has Hexproof and it's indestructible. Hexproof Indestructible is a awesome mashup ability set. Can't be targeted, so you can't, do any sort of pacifism effect on it. And indestructible means you can't sweep it. Really tough to deal with this. You pretty much have to make them sacrifice. That's the only way I can really think of dealing with it. Exile as well, I guess. But yeah, I think this card might actually be good enough for constructed. I would say it is good enough for constructed. 2 mana 3/3 with more rewards later in the game feels really good. Kragma Warcaller. We were saying last night, I can't think of any other time within the same set they've had 2 lords for 1 creature type. There's one earlier where it's I think we said it on the last podcast, 3 mana 2/3 Lord for Minotaurs. This is a 5 mana 2/3, and Minotaur creatures you control have haste, and whenever a Minotaur you control attacks, it gets +2/+0. Pretty cool. I haven't counted how many Minotaurs there are total yet, but I'm sure they haven't all been spoiled. But yeah, like I said, very unusual that they put within the same set 2 lords for 1 creature type. They finally have a picture for this Meadowmai the Ageless, and the card that lets you take extra turns when it deals combat damage to a player. It is indeed a mythic because it looked like they were curious about their rarity on it for a while there. Let's look at this Prophet of Krufix. 3, a green and a blue for a 2/3 human wizard. Untap all creatures and lands you control during each other player's untap step, so Seedborn Muse effect, and then you may cast creature cards as though they had flash. This card seems fun. Definitely going to see some EDH play. Is it going to see constructed play? Probably not. Green-blue, I mean, it's possible. This card was another one of those cards that works really well with any sort of counterspell strategy. You leave up your syncopate. You can basically tap out on your turn, then on their turn you can either counter their spells, or if they don't do any spells, you get to flash in some creatures. So for that reason, I think it seems cool. I just think because it's a 5 mana 2/3, it may not see play. It may actually see play because when you cast it and then you pass the turn, you get to untap all your lands anyway. So he's essentially a free creature. I take it back. This card could actually see some constructed play, depending on how control-y and what kind of control the format turns into. But I actually am intrigued by this card more today than I was last night. I think this card actually has a shot. Because that's such a good ability mashup, and it's in the right colors for what you're trying to do. Green being the biggest creatures and blue being the disruption and counter spells. So I like it, actually. I like it more today than I did last night. Psychic Intrusion. This is a 5 mana sorcery, rare. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. Choose a non-land card from that player's graveyard or hand and exile it. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. It's a cool card. It seems a little bit expensive. I think they were conscious of the fact that there were going to be times where you pick your opponent and they have no non-land cards, or not enough cards where you can take them anyway. So that's why they added you can take it from their graveyard or hand clause. Is it going to be played? Probably not. Praetor's Grasp is kind of a card that this reminds me of, kind of similar effect, and that card didn't see too much play, so I don't anticipate Psychic Intrusion seeing much play either. Reaper of the Wilds, cool picture, but it's in a different language. The spoiled one, that is. So 2, a black and a green for a 4/5 Gorgon. Whenever another creature dies, you scry 1, and then pay a black, it gains Death Touch, or pay a green and a colorless, and it gains Hexproof. So, cool card. Definitely going to see some hardcore limited play. Will it see constructed play? Probably not. But cool card nonetheless. Steam Augury. This is 2, a blue and a red instant. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library and separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles, put that pile into your hand, the other into your graveyard. So it's fact or fiction, but unfortunately it's a strict downgrade in my mind. Anytime you're giving your opponent the choice, I would say that you're at the disadvantage. The card is a disadvantage comparatively to cards that let you make the choice. So I think this is just a strict downgrade from Fact or Fiction, besides the fact that it's more color intensive, having to pay red mana now. I just don't like the idea of giving my opponent the choice. Because then it allows them to evaluate where your board state and their board state's going to be at, and then make the best choice accordingly. Whereas Fact or Fiction, they had to separate and sort of hope that, that you always ended up getting the card you wanted with Fact or Fiction, whereas this card you don't always end up getting the card you want. Timurit, the Murder King. This is a black and a red 2/2 legendary creature zombie warrior, and it has 1 in a red, sack another creature. It deals 2 damage to target player. 1 in a black, sack a creature, return it from your graveyard to your hand. So we were saying last night that they're sort of, it feels like they're moving away from Regenerate. Originally when they made Regenerate, it was a mechanic that it really only seemed to affect battles. Like between creature combat was really the only time it really shined, because it felt like all removal at the peak of Regeneration got rid of, or had a clause that said creature can't be regenerated, or it removed it from the game, or just like burn spells and removal in general. Like they used to say bury, and then buried creatures couldn't be regenerated. So at that time, Regenerate wasn't as good. But now recently they brought it. It's not that they brought it back. You've seen it pop up every now and then, but it's just a lot better now than I think it was originally. So their way to sort of move around that is what this Timurit the Murder King's second ability is. 1 in a black, sack a creature, return them from your graveyard to your hand. So if you have the 2 mana up and they sweep, you can just pay the 2 mana, sack him, and then return him to your hand. So it's like pseudo Regenerate, but Reassembling Skeleton was another example of a card where they were sort of moving away from Regenerate. I guess another example from Core Set would be Tenacious Dead, the 1 mana 1/1, and then when it dies you pay 1 in a black and you return it. So it feels as though they are moving away from the Regenerate mechanic. Finally, we have Zenna the Reveler. So he's another Planeswalker. 2 colorless, a red and a green, 3 loyalty. He has +1 add X mana in any combination of red and or green to your mana pool, where X is the number of creatures you control. He has 0, put a 2/2 red and green Satyr creature token with haste onto the battlefield, and then -6, exile the top 7 cards of your library. You may put any number of creature and or land cards from among onto the battlefield. It's a cool card. I mean, it has the potential to see play. It's in Domri Raid colors, which is cool. A 0 mana ability that gives you a haste creature seems really good. Garruk in mono green. I'm trying to think which Garruk iteration he was again. Garruk. Oh, I can't think of his name now, but the 4 mana one that he also for free spit out 2/2 green creatures. But I think he was a little bit better because he was less color intensive and he let you fight, and then he had a whole new ability set. So I actually don't think this guy is as good as that Garruk, but certainly this one could be playable. Like I said, he protects himself. He makes creatures for free, so I like it. I think he's cool. Let's take a look at this Witch's Eye. This is actually, we saw that one already, didn't we? Let's take a look at these lands, actually. I don't know if I saw these yet. Oh, okay. Yeah, we should talk about these. So the lands, there's a cycle of Scry Lands that are essentially guild gates that also, when they enter, you scry one. So they made them rares, so I'm assuming scry on a land is quite good. I feel like we've seen scry on a land before, something from Future Sight, I believe. But yeah, I mean, scry. What more could you ask for? You get a land that increases your card quality. Can't really ask for much better than that. All right, that's it for new spoilers. So appreciate you tuning in. I apologize Jake and my guest couldn't join us. Believe me, I was pretty disappointed last night when my computer blue screened and I couldn't use any of it. I'm still working really hard on that board game. I'm going to need art for it, so email me at mortarpod@seemsgoodmagic.com if you'd like to inquire about helping me with my game. For art, it's high fantasy. It's going to have a lot. The first campaign is humans versus goblins, and it's just a lot of, I'm going to need soldiers and goblins and treasures and all sorts of different pictures, so it would really be beneficial to me if you could help me out yourself, or if you want to point me in a direction. Mortarpod at SeemsGoodMagic.com. I read it all the time if you message me. Live stream times, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 7 p.m. Central Time. I finally figured out how to save my videos. I hadn't been doing it forever, so I really feel stupid about that. I could have had much more content that in my archives you could have scrolled through, but I'm saving them now, so if you want to catch how my streams went, you can always go back and check now. Anything else I need to report for you? I don't think so. I think that's going to be it. So I'll see you, well, it's Monday now, so I guess I'll see you tomorrow for the live stream. I appreciate all the feedback I've been getting for my draft videos, for the board game, for the blog, everything. I really appreciate all the feedback from you guys. It's been really cool. We've been growing as a community. I've got over, I think, 1,100 YouTube subscribers now, so it's constantly growing, and I really appreciate that too. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one, and yeah, we'll see you guys soon.